1. It's 2 a.m. The world is asleep, but your mind is screaming. The only sound in the room is the sharp rhythmic clicking of your keyboard, a desperate attempt to solve a problem that is clearly burying you alive. Your eyes are burning, your chest feels tight, and you're drowning in a sea of tasks you can no longer manage. The solution is simple. One phone call, one text, one honest admission that you can't do this alone. But as you stare at your contact list, a cold wave of panic hits you. For you, asking for help feels more dangerous than failing. It feels like a betrayal of who you are. How many times have you looked someone in the eye while your world was collapsing and said the 3 deadliest words in your vocabulary, "I am fine"? Why do we choose to burn out in isolation rather than find relief in connection? This isn't just pride. It's not just being stubborn. This is a psychological trench you dug years ago to survive. Today, we're going to look into why your greatest strength, your independence, has become your loneliest prison. 2. In our society, we are taught to worship the self-made. We celebrate the person who never complains, the one who carries the heavy lifting without breaking a sweat, the one who doesn't need anyone. We call it strength. We call it maturity. But if we peel back the layers of this high-functioning exterior, we often find something far more complex than mere ambition. In psychology, there is a sharp, painful distinction between being independent and being hyper-independent. True independence is a skill, the ability to care for yourself while knowing when to lean on others. Hyper-independence, however, is a survival strategy. It is a rigid, ironclad defense mechanism designed to protect you from the one thing you fear most: being let down. Think about that for a moment. When does a choice stop being a choice and start becoming a compulsion? Researchers Flynn and Lake explored this invisible barrier in a landmark 2008 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. They discovered something startling. Most of us walk around with a massive blind spot in our social perception. We consistently underestimate how willing others are to help us by as much as 50%. We convince ourselves that asking for a favor is a burden, an annoyance, or a sign of incompetence. But the data suggests the opposite. People are actually wired to find meaning in helping. So if the help is available, and the burden is a myth, we have to ask the difficult question. Is your self-reliance a reflection of your talent, or is it a shield? Are you doing it all yourself because you are that good? Or because deep down, you simply don't dare to trust that anyone will show up if you fall? 3. Let's look at Nam. On the outside, Nam is the person everyone envies. He is the anchor of his department, the friend who always shows up, the one who seems to have life figured out to the last decimal point. But Nam is living inside a glass box. He can see everyone, but no one can truly touch him. The first crack in Nam's armor appears during something as simple as a coffee break. A coworker brings him a small pastry, a simple gesture of kindness. To most, this is a moment of warmth. To Nam, it's a debt. The moment that box touches his desk, his heart rate spikes. He doesn't feel grateful. He feels exposed. In his mind, an invisible ledger has just been opened, and he is suddenly in the red. He spends the next hour obsessing over how to pay it back, perhaps by finishing that coworker's report or buying an even more expensive lunch. He isn't being generous. He's trying to regain his position of power. For Nam, receiving feels like a weakness, an indebtedness that he cannot tolerate. As time goes on, something even more isolating happens. Nam has become so good at being fine that he has effectively trained the world to stop checking on him. When he stays late, people assume he loves the grind. When he goes quiet, they assume he's focused. The tragedy of Nam is that his own competence has become a wall. Because he never asks, People stop offering. His silence is misinterpreted as strength, and his exhaustion is invisible because he refuses to let it show. He is drowning in plain sight, but because he's still smiling, everyone assumes he's just enjoying the swim. Perhaps the most confusing part is Nam's own generosity. He is the first to volunteer to help a friend move or to stay late for a teammate. Why? Because giving is safe. When Nam is the giver, he is the one in control. He is the protector, the capable one, the one with the upper hand. But the moment the roles are reversed, the moment he has to be the one in the passenger seat, he feels a primal sense of panic, because needing someone else means he can no longer control the outcome. It means he has to trust that they won't drop him. The profound insight here is this: you aren't actually afraid of being a burden. You're afraid of the feeling of needing someone, because to need someone is to admit that you are no longer the one holding the remote control to your own life. And for someone who has spent a lifetime surviving alone, that vulnerability feels like a death sentence. 4. If we look back at Nam's life, and perhaps your own, we find that this wall wasn't built overnight. It was constructed brick by brick, out of necessity, usually at an age when most children were still allowed to be small. Psychologists call this parentification. It's what happens when the roles in a household are reversed. Maybe your parents were physically absent, or perhaps they were emotionally fragile. Maybe they were so overwhelmed by their own struggles that there was no room left for yours. In that silence, you learned a very quiet, very dangerous lesson. Your needs are an inconvenience. You realized that if you didn't fix the problem, no one would. So you stopped being a child and started being a solution. This created what John Bowlby called an avoidant attachment style. Your brain performed a brutal piece of pattern recognition. It recorded every time you reached out for comfort and met a closed door, an angry sigh, or a blank stare. To protect yourself from the agony of rejection, your nervous system made an executive decision. People are not reliable. Only I am. Think of your hyper-independence as a weapon. Your nervous system is like a soldier who is still clutching his rifle, eyes darting, standing guard in the middle of a peaceful garden. The war ended 20 years ago. The people around you now aren't the ones who let you down back then. They are here, they are willing, and they are kind. But your brain doesn't care about the calendar. It only cares about the trauma. That independence you're so proud of? It was the gun that kept you alive when the world was a battlefield. But now, that same gun is the only thing standing between you and the people who want to love you. You can't hug someone while you're still holding a weapon. You can't be held while you're still busy standing guard. 5. We need to be very honest here. Independence is a magnificent bridge. It is the structure that allowed you to cross over the chaos of your past and reach the shore of the person you are today. It gave you strength. It gave you a career. It gave you a sense of agency. But a bridge is only functional if it is anchored on both sides. If you refuse to let anyone else reinforce those pillars, if you insist on being the only one holding up the entire span, that bridge eventually stops being a path to somewhere and starts becoming an island. You aren't moving forward anymore. You are just standing alone, high above the water, terrified of the moment the wood begins to splinter. Because it will splinter. Hyper-independence is the fast track to a very specific kind of burnout. The kind where you aren't just tired of your work, you are tired of your own existence. It is the heavy, hollow loneliness of being surrounded by people who love you, yet feeling like a ghost because no one actually knows how much you are struggling. And there is a hidden cost to those around you too. When you refuse to be helped, you inadvertently send a message to the people who care about you. You tell them that they aren't trusted, that they aren't needed, and that they aren't strong enough to handle your weight. You turn your relationships into a one-way street, where you are the eternal giver, and they are the perpetual outsiders. By never being the one to receive, you rob the people you love of the most profound joy in any relationship, the chance to be there for you. You don't realize it, but your strength is actually a form of distance that keeps everyone you love at arm's length. 6. So where do we go from here? Before you try to tear down that wall, I want you to do something unexpected. I want you to thank it. Don't hate your hyper-independence. It was the only friend you had when the world felt cold. It was the shield that kept you safe, the engine that drove you forward, and the reason you are still standing here today. It did its job perfectly. But you are no longer that helpless child. You are safe now. And it's okay to tell that inner soldier that the war is over. Learning to ask for help is like learning a new language. At first, the words will feel heavy and clumsy in your mouth. You might feel a flash of shame or a wave of panic the first time you say, "I can't do this alone." That's okay. That's just your nervous system remembering an old story. But as you practice, a new world begins to open up. A world where you don't have to be perfect to be loved. A world where your value isn't measured by how much you can endure in silence. Remember this. Your needs are not a burden. They are the very things that allow other people to love you. You do not have to carry the entire world on your shoulders just to earn your right to exist. You are worthy of support, not because of what you can do, but simply because you are here. It's time to put the weight down. You've carried it long enough. 7. If you've spent a lifetime being the one who is always fine, I invite you to take one small step with us today. Share a piece of your story in the comments. A moment when you realized you were carrying too much. By speaking it out loud, you're already beginning to dismantle that old survival strategy. If this deep dive resonated with you, please subscribe and join our membership. Your support allows us to keep creating these spaces for empathy and understanding, building a community where no one has to be strong all the time. And if you're wondering why being the easy child was so painful, stay tuned for our next video, The Psychology of the Ignored Child Syndrome. Thank you for being here. You aren't alone anymore.